You have probably heard the number, $1.4 million, tossed around as what a couple needs saved before they can retire in Australia. It turns up in bank calculators, retirement seminars, and the kind of headline that makes you close the laptop and stop thinking about it for another 6 months. That number comes from a specific piece of maths. Take the ASFA Comfortable Retirement Benchmark, $72,148 a year for a couple, and ask how much you would need sitting in an account to pay yourself that amount forever, assuming zero help from the age pension and zero income from work ever again. Do that maths, and you land close enough to $1.4 million. But that is not what ASFA itself recommends you save. Their own modelling puts the real lump sum at $730,000 for a couple who own their home, because it already assumes you will receive at least some age pension along the way. That is $670,000 less than the figure that keeps people awake at night. And if you are willing to keep even a couple of days of paid work going in your 60s, the number can drop further still because of a rule called the work bonus that most people your age have never had explained properly. In this video, I am going to show you where your real number sits, how the work bonus lets you earn money without losing your pension, and why the $1.4 million figure has been quietly pushing people to work years longer than they actually need to. If you are somewhere near retirement and wondering whether you have actually saved enough, stick around. I am Bob, and every week on this channel I break down the real numbers for Australians planning their retirement, not the scary headline version. Hit subscribe, because the next few minutes might change how you think about your own number. That $72,148 a year figure hides a trap. ASFA is not wrong about what a comfortable retirement costs. The confusion creeps in from a quiet assumption sitting underneath it, that every dollar of that spending comes from savings and the age pension alone, with no wage coming in from anywhere else. The moment you add even modest paid work, the whole equation shifts because of the work bonus. Under this rule, the first $300 you earn each fortnight is ignored completely by the pension income test, as if you never earned it at all. If you do not use that $300 in a given fortnight, it does not just disappear. It banks up in what Services Australia calls your work bonus income bank to a maximum of $11,800. When you first qualify for the pension, you already start with $4,000 sitting in that bank as a head start, which you can draw on later if you pick up extra shifts over a busy stretch. There is a second lever working in your favour that most retirement calculators leave out entirely, the assets test. For a homeowner couple, the full age pension is available up to $499,000 in assessable assets, not counting the family home. Go a little over that line and the pension does not vanish. It tapers gently, reduced by around $3 a fortnight for every $1,000 you are over. A couple sitting at $500,000 in super, just $1,000 above the threshold, is still collecting close to the full payment. That taper matters because most people picture the assets test as a cliff. Either you qualify or you fall off the edge completely. It is not built that way. It is a slope and a gentle one, which is exactly why a couple with $500,000 in super is not locked out of the pension at all. Picture what that actually buys in real terms. An extra $7,800 a year from a couple of shifts a week is roughly what covers the council rate's notice, the car rego renewal, and a fair chunk of the electricity bill, all without touching a cent of the pension. This is not about gaming the system. The work bonus exists because the government would rather retirees kept doing a shift or two a week than draw down their savings twice as fast. The rules were built for exactly the situation most people approaching retirement are actually in. I used to believe, and told people for years, that the pension was a fallback you reached for once your savings ran dry, not something you would plan around. Running the work bonus numbers properly changed my mind. For anyone planning to keep one foot in paid work, the pension is not a last resort. It is part of the plan from day one. But there is a catch. Structure that part-time income the wrong way, and you can trip other parts of the system and lose more than you gained. So let's look at what an actual couple's numbers look like, side by side with the figure that made the headlines in the first place. Meet Mary and John, 67 years old, mortgage paid off, $500,000 between them in super. John is stepping back from work completely. Mary is keeping 2 shifts a week at a medical reception desk, earning $300 a fortnight, right at the edge of what the work bonus ignores. Run the numbers, and their year looks something like this. Drawing down 4% of their super gives them $20,000. Mary's wage adds another $7,800, all of it protected from the pension income test. And because their $500,000 in assessable assets sits barely above the $499,000 threshold for a homeowner couple, they are still collecting close to the full pension, somewhere around $47,000 a year. Add it up, and you land close to $74,800 a year, ahead of the $72,148 that ASFA calls comfortable for a couple, on $500,000 in super, not $1.4 million. For Mary and John, that $74,800 covers everyday life without much drama, the quarterly council rates notice, the electricity bill, a Medicare gap payment on the years one of them needs to see a specialist, and a genuine amount left over for the parts of retirement that are actually meant to be enjoyable. None of this comes free of a trade-off. Chase the $1.4 million path, and you are usually looking at full-time work into your 70s, banking every spare dollar, and hoping the market behaves itself in the exact year you finally stop, because a bad run of investment returns right before retirement can undo years of careful saving. A sharp drop in the first year or two of drawing down your super forces you to sell more of it at a lower price just to fund the same income, and that gap rarely closes fully, even once markets recover. The other path accepts a smaller number, keeps a small income coming in, because you want to, rather than because you have to, and treats the pension as a genuine part of the plan instead of something to feel embarrassed about needing. I am in my late 50s myself, and I have sat down and run these same projections against my own numbers. There is a real fear in looking at your balance and feeling like it is not enough. There is also real relief in realizing that 2 shifts a week is not a failure. It is a strategy the rules were actually built to reward. But can 2 days a week of income really be counted on for 20 years? What happens if Mary's health changes or the job disappears altogether? That question is exactly where most people talk themselves into the wrong decision, and it comes down to a bias worth naming. Most of us grew up picturing retirement as a finish line. You stop, you travel, you never set an alarm again. It is a lovely image, and it is also the reason the savings target balloons out of proportion. Because the moment you plan for zero income of any kind, every dollar of your future spending has to come from savings and the pension alone. Psychologists call this all or nothing thinking, and it makes sense for plenty of things. It does not make much sense for a 20 or 30-year retirement where your health, your energy, and your interest in working can all shift from one year to the next. I hear a version of the same sentence constantly. If I am going to retire, I want to really retire. No alarm clocks, no boss, no more compromises. I understand that feeling. I have felt it myself. But for most people, a small amount of paid work on their own terms does not shrink retirement. It gives it more room to move. There is another fear tangled up in this one. The fear of losing purpose the moment the job title disappears. For a lot of people, work has quietly been the answer to who am I for 30 or 40 years. Losing that all at once is its own kind of loss, even when the money side works out fine. Keeping a small amount of paid work is not only about the income. It is about keeping a foot in something that gives your week a shape. Try asking a different question than the one you have been asking. Not how much do I need to never work again, but how much do I need so I only work when I want to? That single change in the question can cut the number you are chasing by hundreds of thousands of dollars, and the work bonus exists specifically to reward people who choose that path. I do not know your health, your family situation, or what your mortgage looks like, and all of that genuinely changes your number. What I do know is that the figures in this video are real and checkable directly against Services Australia and ASFA. If part-time work in your 60s is even a maybe for you, your real number is very likely lower than the one that has been keeping you up at night. So what do you actually do with this? Time to turn it into a plan you can follow. Step 1 is working out your real number, not the ASFA number. Track your actual spending for a few months, then adjust for what changes in retirement. No commuting costs, no mortgage, maybe smaller general spending once the kids are independent. If you are spending $70,000 a year now and expect it to drop once those costs disappear, your real target might be closer to $60,000. Step 2 is getting honest about what part-time work could realistically look like for you. 2 shifts a week, somewhere around $300 a fortnight, sits right at the edge of what the work bonus ignores entirely. Earn a bit more than that in a given fortnight, and the extra is often still covered by your work bonus income bank before it touches your pension payment at all. Picture a bigger week than usual. Earn $500 in a fortnight instead of $300, and the extra $200 still might not count against your pension. If you have an income bank balance built up from quieter fortnights, or from that $4,000 head, start every new pensioner gets. Step 3 is checking your own figures directly with Services Australia rather than relying on a rule of thumb from a video, including one like this. Your income bank balance, your specific assets, and your partner's situation all change the calculation. And the only way to know your real number is to check it against your own numbers. Step 4 is being deliberate about how you draw down your super. Keep it in a low-cost, appropriately diversified option, and draw at a sustainable rate, generally somewhere around 4% to 5% a year, rather than pulling out large lump sums early and hoping the rest lasts. If you eventually sell the family home and want to add some of that money back into super, the downsizer contribution rules allow up to $300,000 per person from age 55, though that is a big enough decision to deserve its own conversation with a professional. Step 5 is revisiting all of this every couple of years, not just once. Your health changes, the job market changes, pension rules get adjusted. What is true for your numbers now will not necessarily be true in 5 years, and that is fine as long as you keep checking. The part most retirees get wrong looks like this. They stop work completely on day 1, then realize a year or 2 later that they have plenty of time and not quite enough money, and by then the part-time roles they once could have picked up easily are harder to find. Keeping a foot in the workforce without losing pension benefits is exactly what the work bonus is built to allow, and it works best when you plan for it before you retire, not after. I had a client, Susan, 67 years old, single, home-owned outright, with $400,000 in super. She assumed she would need to work full-time until she was 70. We ran her numbers properly. 2 days a week of tutoring. Earning under the work bonus threshold meant that income barely touched her pension. Drawing down around $16,000 a year from her super, adding roughly $7,800 from tutoring, and collecting a part pension of around $26,000. Because her assets sat above the single full pension threshold, her total came to just under $50,000 a year, close to what ASFA calls comfortable for a single person, and far closer than she ever expected on $400,000. She told me afterwards that she had spent close to 2 years assuming she would have to keep working full pelt into her 70s. Finding out otherwise felt like getting a chunk of her weekends back before she had even left her old job. I remember sitting in the car after that meeting, doing this exact maths on the back of an envelope, and realizing the $1.4 million figure was only ever true for someone planning to never earn another dollar again. That envelope is still in a drawer in my desk. So let me bring this together. So what do you really need to retire in Australia? It depends on you, but if you are willing to keep even a little paid work going in your 60s, the number can be far lower than the $1.4 million figure repeated everywhere. The real lever is the work bonus, and structuring your income so you use it properly, instead of accidentally working against yourself. Mary and John worked out their numbers on $500,000. Susan worked hers out on $400,000. Neither of them needed anything close to $1.4 million, and neither do most people watching this who are open to a little paid work along the way. Do not let a number built on the assumption that you will never work another day push you into working years longer than you actually need to. If you want more of these real-world numbers for Australian retirement planning, hit subscribe and join the people watching this channel every week. I am not here to sell you a scarier number than the one you actually face. And I would genuinely like to know, what is your target number? And are you planning to keep any paid work going once you retire? Leave it in the comments below. Your answer might be exactly what someone else watching this needs to hear. Thanks for watching. I will see you in the next one.